All right, let's get started here in a minute. Give people a few seconds to roll on in if they want to, and then we'll get going. All right. So, guys, we're in it for the long haul today because the wife is out of town. So, we can do some work. Got some stuff I can do in the home lab, stuff I want to work on and talk about, and yeah, just hit these different things and work on whatever we want. We got pretty much the whole night. I don't have any college classes, although I do have some to prep for next quarter, but I don't ever prep on stream for college stuff, so you guys unfortunately can't see that. But what you can see is us working in the home lab. Got quite a few things to work on. And what we're going to talk a little bit about too is maybe home lab build out, what you would need, you know, my first thing would be, the first question would be, do you even need to run your own lab, right? Like I would posit that most of the stuff you might want to learn, you know, right? Most of the stuff I think you could probably learn online. There's tools out there like Killer Coda. I mean, what would Killer Coda show you, right? If you go here and go to Killer Coda, what are they going to show you? Well, they'll teach you about Kubernetes. They'll teach you about Linux. Teach you something about Ansible. Maybe some HashiCorp. There's all kinds of stuff going on in here that, like, literally hundreds and hundreds of labs that maybe for like running your own lab light would work just fine. Like maybe you don't need to go super heavy deep into having your own lab, you know. Maybe you just want something light. That's something that could be, you know, Killer Coda, or even, I mean, shoot, how many of these other things are there out there? Was it like what's that one that's free that everybody uses for leak code, right? I mean, there's any number of I would say W3 schools. Like, there's all kinds of things that are, like, doing that. And then I would say, can you run a light version of a lab? Right? So no hardware. Maybe like, again, do you even need to run your own lab? Most of you could probably get away with just doing this stuff online, but there's so much online stuff that you're already online and can go use for free. Raleigh Red, you might have to post whatever that link is in the thing. Oh, I mean, shoot, I didn't even think about what are all these other free ones. There's what is that, like Hack Me and Hack the Box and Try Whatevers, and there's so many of those things that you could probably go in and, yeah, probably at least get, oh, developer, yeah, I didn't even think about that. There you go. Yeah, I didn't even think about that one. But there's all kinds of stuff that you can go be online, and most of it's free, and you don't even have to build anything out you want. But you can run a light version of a lab with no hardware. I mean, how do you do that? You get Oracle VirtualBox, maybe, you know, so what, Oracle VirtualBox, maybe you got, what's another one? What is VMware Desktop? And what would that allow you to do? Spin up own systems, and spin up your own systems, and have full VMs. You could skip all that, right? And you can just run local Docker, right? And then with Docker you can spin up, right? And then you can just spin up and build containers and deploy all that kind of stuff, right? Bingo Bango, Zorgle, Raleigh, how's it going? Yeah. My point in saying all this is, like, even before, because I constantly get asked. In fact, this is probably the first time I've ever put in my title that I was going to talk about a home lab. Most of you guys know I run a home lab. I have a pretty significant half rack in the other room of my house that puts off a good amount of heat and can run a few hundred servers when I want it to, when I configure it that way. And but do most people need that? No. Do I even need that? Probably not. But like, we do this stuff for fun, sometimes just because we want to, not because we have to or anything. But anyways, I'm trying to talk you out in some ways of having to go build a lab, because most of you could probably do this stuff. It's the same thing when people tell me, well, hey, should I be dual booting systems? Guys, I haven't dual booted a system professionally in almost 20 years. Like, when's the last time anybody dual booted anything? No, you just spin up the OS you're going to use and run a Type 2 hypervisor on it and do whatever you want, right? Just have some software. Yeah, a lot of guys in our Discord are using Proxmox now for sure. I think Proxmox is a great tool for running your own home lab for sure. Yeah, Zorgle, I do think your home lab is kind of what a lot of people probably need to push themselves over into the pro world, and that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I think people can do a lot of this without it, but I mean, if one were to be insistent that they must have a home lab, then I'm going to talk a little bit about the things that I would think that you'd need here, and where I think you would go get them. Again, free. Like, these things are all free. Oracle VirtualBox is free personal use. Remember, Oracle VirtualBox is not free in the enterprise. I have to tell people that. I actually worked, I was a contractor for Best Western when COVID hit. That didn't go well for any contractors, I assure you that. Even if they liked you, they weren't going to keep you. And there was this interesting thing that happened where two of the other, they were not me, I was not involved in this, but two people were running Oracle VirtualBox locally and connecting up into a Oracle instance, and they found it, and Oracle fined them like $500,000 for 2 instances of Oracle VirtualBox in their environment, in their enterprise. You can't use that kind of stuff. Yeah, WSL, yeah, that's another one here. I should put that here as a noted one. Like WSL, can run Linux in Windows. You can, so that's, for people that don't know, that's Windows subsystem for Linux, right? And anymore nowadays, it can run Linux in Windows. You can deploy containers directly in it, and you can deploy K3s in it. So those are all free. Those are all free things to do. So K3s is that's Kubernetes Lite, right? Without me knowing exactly what it is, I can just tell you it's Kubernetes Lite. Like, I don't know the exact what K3s means, but I think it's just shorter K8s. in that it's just it's a lighter version of it. Yeah. So my point in saying all this is like, man, you guys might not like when we talk about like a cost of things, right? And $1 sign is like low, and then right, it starts to not height, not even a misspelled height. Yeah, low, medium, and high as far as costs go. These ones up here where you don't even build your own home lab out, that's pretty good. I mean, you'll probably already have a laptop, most of you, and most of you probably already have the internet. You're probably not paying anything more to get on the internet. So I don't know, man. Like a lot of this stuff, let's just call this like online. Yeah, you probably learn most of what you need to online for a good portion of this. And I tell you guys, this is totally different than when I got into Linux. And the way it used to be is, you know, some other Linux admin would throw a CD or DVD at you and tell you to go install Linux. And if they came back a week later to talk to you and you didn't have Linux installed, they were like, well, guess you can't be a Linux admin ever, or a Linux engineer. That's just not in the cards for you. Go work on Windows and networking for the rest of your career. That's kind of what it was. But now, if you want to switch over into Linux, I could put you in a killer Coda shell. I could put everybody here in a killer Coda shell right now. We could all be in the same shell. Well, we'd be in different environments, but I'm saying like everything I did, I would know exactly is going to work on your shell exactly the same way as it does in mine. And that's tremendously powerful. I've told you guys, like, if I put like 30 college students in a classroom, and I know this from teaching college for so long, and I told them, all right, we're going to do VI for the next hour. I know for the next hour, I'm just going to be getting people out of VI. That's what we're going to be doing. If I said, let's install Linux, that's what we'd be doing for the next 2 hours, because some people would do it real quick and then there would always be stragglers, right? Well, if I could just put you all in a terminal and you could all be sitting at the same frickin' prompt, that to me is just tremendously powerful. So, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff here that we could start to do, right? But so, yeah, there's little mini PCs you can run. Some people, right? So what you might need if you want to run it in your own lab. Yeah. So you could probably get away with not even running. So this up here is like not even running your own home lab up here. This is just running stuff here. And then we get into like a lab build out, right? What do you need, right? Like, what are you going to need in a lab if you're building something out, right? Well, you could do a lab light, kind of like Raleigh's talking about, with like a mini PC for like $350 or something. That's probably a pretty good option. Some people start out with, I mean, if you want to jump right into Linux and do some basic little stuff, you can do a decent amount with like a little Raspberry Pi. And I even have little Pi projects out there on our Discord. If you guys want to see like I'll show you guys an old Pi project I did. This is years ago, so the numbers probably aren't even the same anymore on it. But where do I have that? I think I have it up in. Hold on. Excuse me. I think I have it down in Pi projects actually. Hold on. Ras Pi Lab. Yeah, so this was one I did long ago right here. Hold on. And I honestly don't know where all the color went on this, so I can't help you guys with that. But this was like building out like a time lapse with Raspberry Pi. That's old, man. Look at that. That's a long time ago. But this is about the prices that cost back then. I think Raspberry Pis they're up to 4 now, and there's higher versions that cost more and have more memory on them. But this is what I kind of did at the time. And the Lego case and all that kind of stuff. There was a specific reason I chose the Lego case, and it's because it had the Pi camera mounter on it. You could just mount the Pi camera on it. Yeah. So there's some pretty good stuff like that. Additional costs if you don't have an extra mouse, keyboard, HDMI cable laying around. So there's some other stuff. But this was about $78 for a little build like this. And this was my old coffee table, right? And then, setting it up and having it all working like I wanted. And guys, this project's up in the Discord, so if anybody wanted this and wanted to go through it, yeah, this Discord is up in the this is up in the Discord, and it's like a pipeline tool chain, what it might look like to build. This was my build process, like the things that I did, and then this was like running through the individual commands and testing it that it all does the things you want it to, and then this was my time lapser. No explanation here, but then over here I have it with an explanation of each thing that I was doing in my little shell script. Yeah, Raleigh, that's true. And another thing about Raspberry Pis that I try to tell people is you can't, like, people think you can just set them up and then productionalize them, and the hardware's not designed to be production stable, so it's not as good an option as some people might think if you really wanted to run kind of like my home lab setup, where I have a little more reliability of my stuff. But anyways, this is the thing that I built for this, and then this is what it does right here. This was my old house, and this is like what a time lapse of 30 minutes or so would look like as a storm was rolling in. You know, pretty simple little time lapser. Just messing around with a little Pi, doing Pi stuff, you know. So, yeah, look, you see some lightning up here in the distance. Yeah, lightning. There's a little bit of a thunderstorm coming in. But anyways, you know, lab build out, what do you need? You can start, I think you could start pretty light. I mean, what do you probably already have? You probably have some type of home router. But that's going to be limited on ports typically, right? So you probably need some type, so let's say, you know, some type of 8 to maybe 16 port switch. The switch itself, let's talk about that for a second, can be a dumb switch. And why do I say it can be a dumb switch? Or let's call it this. Let's call it what the technical term is. What does that mean to be an unmanaged switch? Does anybody know? What's the limitation there? No setup of VLANs, right? So it's not going to do VLANs for you. So like in my home lab, I have an 8-port switch in there. It might be 12-port, but somewhere in there. You want some number of ports, and I would nowadays I wouldn't be under 100. Sorry, I wouldn't be under. I almost said 100 gig. I wouldn't be under a 1 gig switch, but let's say 10 gig. Well, okay, whatever your speed is, you can. So I can set up. Yeah, Tuber T over on YouTube said I can't set up VLAN. I can set up VLANs. I just can't do them through that switch. So I run VLANs in my home lab, but I do them a different way. I use the actual hypervisor to provide my VLANs, and then I use a router to route between my VLANs, right? Which, by the way, guys, that's a very important concept. Once you have VLANs involved, your troubleshooting now requires a router. You have to have a router involved, right? So, yeah, Raleigh, that's fair to say. Yeah. So you can have a virtual switch inside there, but if you start to do like what I do and have multiple physical machines for your hypervisors, then you are going to have a switch between them in some way. So in my home lab, right, I have 4 pieces of equipment. I actually have some photos of them up in the, if we go here, we go up to like, I think we go to home lab chat. You guys can go see my dusty old server equipment. I know I got to clean it all up. I just haven't gotten around to it. I think it's in home lab. If it is, it shouldn't be too far back. That's funny. I could have sworn I put it in home lab, but this was me setting up my new home lab or my new office. Yeah, so here's my dusty servers in my little half rack, right? I know I need to clean them off, guys. Poor little servers. They're so neglected. There's only 4 servers on. This one down here, this one here, this one here, and then this one up here. These other ones are just holding the rack to the floor for me. I could pull all that stuff out for sure. But this is the little half rack. I actually got this from one of our. It's funny. He was never really one of our engineers, but he was one of our guys that knew about the group. Yeah, I know it's dusty. I need to get in there and clean it up. But But the way that comes out, right, the net effect of that is I have type 1 hypervisors on there, and then those type 1 hypervisors are carved up into different nodes and different things that are doing whatever they're doing. And then in my environment, I run a thing called Werewolf, and Werewolf takes over a whole VLAN. In fact, the easiest way to see that is here. Werewolf takes over a whole VLAN right here, and everything in there listens to it for DHCP, and then also TFTP and NFS. Everything in there is configured. Everything in this 192.168.200.0 on VLAN 1 is basically under the control of Werewolf, right? And then when nodes come up, they get built into the different devices, right? And then we've got our different servers that people can log into and do different stuff that they need to, right? So where I'm going with that anyways is you probably at the bare minimum need a home router, right? Limit on ports, but can typically do, right, some type of Wi-Fi. So you got your Wi-Fi, and then you can do stuff with that. You can do full VLAN management with a single port on Proxmox, and then use internal Proxmox networks for the VMs and their networking. Sure, yeah. You can do. There's a lot of ways to carve this up, guys. For me, because I'm using XCPNG, which is a little bit different technology than Proxmox, but at the end of the day, they're similar in that they're both Type 1 hypervisors. My systems have their own networking that's done over. It's tagged. We should be able to see right here. Why can't I see that there? Maybe I can see it up here. I can see that they're on VLAN 1. So I also started to set up these other labs on other VLANs, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to go that far, because what I use to route between them is a actual Cisco device. Or a Cisco device. It's not a Cisco device. It's a Linux router, and then it just does IP table routing for me in between everything. So yeah, so and my stuff is all aging out, and I realize most of the stuff is getting older as we kind of go, but it still does what I need. At the end of the day, I really just need to get people in a Linux terminal, right? So for in my home lab, and since I use my home lab for the ProLUG Lab, really I just need to be able to get you guys access over the network, which is something that I was showing the other day. People that need to get access in our environment, you join the Discord, and then you go down to, should be ProLUG Lab environment. It tells you how to get in there. There's some images that show how we do it, and then there's some stuff here where it's like, hey, if you need to get in there, this is what you do. Prolug at prolug.asuscom.com, and then I used to have the testers just have their own password, but now you guys just drop a key in there. A private key is always yours. Public key only, right? Give me your public key. I'll go drop it in there, and then you guys can connect to it. So there you go. All right. So yeah. So what else would you need in a home build out? So you probably need some type devices to virtualize, right? And what most people would do. Well, let's back up a little bit. You could go with Raspis, and those things have some costs to them, maybe, but then some people like to turn that into like K8s, or I use Raspberry Pis. Some of you guys have seen my retro gaming. I have a whole fair amount of maybe 6,000 ROMs or so, and I do retro gaming. I don't ever show it on stream here. There you go. Yeah, Raleigh, are you asking me what project I want to do, or are you talking to Bingo Bango? Because for me, I know what I'm doing. I'm just talking through for other people. So yeah, I think people definitely need a plan, though, for sure. Some type of device to virtualize, right? You could do what was mentioned earlier, like a mini PC. Yeah, I think that's definitely good advice. Mini PC, you know, maybe this is kind of like a mid-range cost, maybe like 150 to like what 450-ish, right? What I use, and my servers are. I mean, I've just bought them off of Amazon. You get there are refurbished servers from Amazon, and I would say they are typically like 150 to like maybe 500, and that's that's gonna, guys, this is the thing about my home lab. If I had to go and like look at these servers now, I'd say I'd have to go look at the memory on them. This guy I probably bought for about 150. This guy I probably bought, what is he at? What has he got? 50 gigs. He's got something wrong with him. Oh no, that's available. He's 128. Yeah, so I probably bought him for about 250. This guy, he's my small boy, right? He's my small box. I probably got him for about 150. And then this guy was probably a couple hundred as well. So like that, they're not breaking the bank if you're just buying them every now and then. But yeah, in general, like things get cheaper over time, right? The equipment gets cheaper and cheaper. And then like you can go on. Actually, somebody just showed me. I should have written this down. Somebody showed me a couple days ago on stream here where you could just go buy discs, like server level discs that are like an individual disc refurbished is like 18 terabytes. Have you guys seen those? Somebody showed that to me. I bet I still have it open in a tab somewhere. I'm pretty sure I definitely opened it, so it's definitely in my tab somewhere. I just don't know where it is. I'd have to go look for it. But yeah, they were talking about this place that you can go and order just these kind of massive things. But your what you're gonna cost, or I guess what you're gonna spend money on if you are building out a lab, is mostly gonna go into hardware type costs. I would say like a home router. If you don't have one, if you don't have it, probably 150 nowadays for a decent one. Yeah, I know you can get cheaper routers than that, but if you want some basic stuff, your switch is probably gonna be something like 60 to like 150 bucks, depending on what you buy and who you get. You just go get some little cheap Dell switch or something. You're probably not gonna be too bad. But right, I would definitely, for me, it's an unmanaged switch. But if you want to, man, they used to have like deals like this, and I bet you can still find these on like eBay and stuff. I just hate eBay. When I say hate it, I don't like going on and haggling about shit with people. I have no deal. I have no desire in life to argue with people about the price of shit. That's like not my thing. But I do know that like people will get their CCIEs and then sell their whole stack. And people that want to, go buy cheap networking equipment, sometimes you can find a good deal on it after somebody passes some cert or other thing like that. So, I'm Veer Singh said, just curious, what type of project should we be starting in order to build a lab? I would say, I'm Veer Singh, this is one of the things where I tell people, like, building out a lab is kind of one of those things where some people do it just to build the lab. And then they find what they want to do later. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Had to sneeze. So, like, a lot of times the process of building the lab is the value of the lab itself. And what I mean by that is some of you want to take a resume. Let's say that I was going to show you guys my... Where's my het resume short? Yeah, here's my shortened resume, right here. This is my short little het resume that's not exactly it's as up to date as it can be, but it's my generic resume for me. And some of you guys, if you don't have any experience doing any of this stuff, one of the things I tell you to do is lead with your strengths, put your strengths up top. And one of the things could be that you run your own home lab. I run my own home lab of 20 servers. Those servers are virtualized in this type of architecture. I maintain those servers by patching them and doing all this thing. And what that would show is that you kind of understand operations. So I'm Veer Singh. A lot of times when you start in this industry, right? Let me pull something up for you guys real quick here. A lot of times when you start in this industry, you end up being... I thought I just opened this up the other day. Was it this one? No. We got to do this whole thing again that we did the other day, because I swear I had this. I swear I had this as one of the most recent ones, so give me a second here. Not streamer interaction, not this. Yeah, it's over here. So the question was, why might you build out a lab? And I would say because most of you, when you start in engineering and you start as an admin, because most of you are going to start as sysadmins if you're not in the field yet, you probably are going to start in an operations team. You're going to keep the lights on. You're going to monitor stuff and fix stuff and keep servers that are running and doing the things that they need to. You will probably optimize those things and make them better. You will just, in general, sit here and work in a field of working servers of some type, right? And because of that, because this is kind of where your life starts out as an admin, then building the lab itself is kind of the point. Building the lab out is kind of the point, because then you say, well, okay, I understood how to build out. Now, a lot of times when you start, you're not even the guy building the servers. The engineers are over there building servers, or older admins that have been around a long time. Your job really is just to keep them running and knock out trouble tickets and keep people happy, and keep management from yelling at people, and whatever, keep the money flowing into the company, keep the servers working that are customer facing, right? That kind of stuff. So in a lot of ways, building out the home lab for people that want to be Linux administrators and Linux engineers, that's the point of it itself, if that makes sense. He said, for example, someone wants to learn about Microsoft Exchange and Exchange migration. Any success? I can't help you much with Microsoft. I learned all my Microsoft in the wild. I haven't worked. So this is actually my resume right here, although it's my het resume. And I can tell you all the way back to like 2023-ish, when I was still the platform engineering lead for AAA, which is the insurance company. When I was the platform engineering lead for them, I did run the Windows environment as well, even though I'm a Linux engineer. But I maintained that all through Ansible, which was kind of funny. Ansible and PowerShell. But that being said, yeah, like I learned all my stuff in the wild. So I'm Veer Singh, I can't really give you good advice on that. The best way I think you can learn Microsoft, if you want to go that route, is to get into a company running it. But I don't have any good advice for that, except maybe go spend some time getting a cert in there, because there are plenty of, Azure has all kinds of certs that you can go get into. Oh, I forgot to keep something running over here. Oh, damn it, hold on. Other environment. That's a hassle. All right, give me a second here, guys. All right, there we go. I got to keep my other environment open. Yeah, Raleigh, I agree. Yeah, like for those type of things, having the cert shows that you went through the full body of it. But I can't. I'm not the one to ask about that, because I haven't ever went in my entire career since I got out of the Army. I have never went specifically for a Windows job. When I first got out of the Army, I went for a LAN tech position, so that was local area network technician. That was like, I had my CCNA, so I was kind of going to do networking. And then after I did that for a while, I jumped, I did networking until mid 2000 in what they call the aughts, right? Those years. And then I jumped over to doing all Linux. So I haven't ever actually went for a Windows position ever. So, and then, so your lab build out, what do you need for hardware? Right? And then there's another component to this that we need to talk about, which is, what do you need for software? Right? Like, how are you going to build? Like, if you've never done any of this before and you're like, well, shoot, where do I start? Do I just add a Linux box? Do I just do whatever? How do I build out this environment? Well, I might posit in an environment in general, right? Like, let's just say generally. You need some type, so you need these things. You need DHCP, unless you want to statically assign everything. And most of us don't. Most of you don't. Most of you probably don't think about DHCP because your home router's probably doing it for you. So you probably set up a DHCP pool one time and just said, give it everything. But when you're doing it professionally, you do have to have DHCP in there unless you want to statically assign anything, right? And typically assign ranges, assign subnet masks. So we'll just say subnet masks in there so that the system knows what's on and off. And then what's then optional, there's a couple of optional things. They call the ranges pools. So like if you're getting technical about DHCP, it's called a pool. And if you need to see that, right, I'm going to show you a tool that I like for it, but right, od.conf. This is like my environment, and this is how my DHCP pool is set up in the .200 network, which is a separate network. And the reason I have it in the separate network is because I want my Werewolf server to be able to, watch this. So Werewolf runs a whole bunch of things in my cluster for me. It runs Werewolf, so it does all the Werewolf functions. It's got its own API. It does DHCP. It does TFTP, which is very optional, and so is NFS in an environment. But it also manages all my keys and all my images as well. So there's a bunch of things that can happen, but in general, for a base system, base network, you need a DHCP pool of some type. I could pull it up in my home lab, but my home lab is 192.168.11.0/24. So I have 254 usable IP addresses in my home lab. The first one is used for the network. You can't use the 192.168.11.0, and you can't use the last one, the 192.168.11.255, because that's the broadcast, right? So there's two that are always stolen from you no matter what you do, and they're always gone. Let me pull this back up. And so assign subnet masks. And then the optional. Oh, there's one that's not optional. Assign gateway. You got to tell the thing how to get out. But one that's optional is DHCP. Is DHCP, DNS servers. You can give DNS servers if you want, but they're optional. They're not required in DHCP. So generally in an environment, you need to do this, right? Then you have to have some type of inventory, right? Some type of inventory of servers. Well, let's say that it would be, right? And your hypervisors will try to do that for you as best they can. Like in my environment, like my hypervisors know about their own stuff, but there's nothing out here that knows about everybody's stuff. So typically inventories, right? So inventories are one of two types typically. They are either done one of two ways. And it is either going to be all DNS records or static host files. Those are the two ways that we tend to do that in the Linux world, right? Right. So then we get down here, yes. So then some type of inventory, something that knows what the things are, right? This is generally what you're going to need in an environment. And then what you need for software is going to hopefully be what you use to determine this, right? So on your devices, hypervisor, you're going to pick a hypervisor. I think the most common one right now for you guys is Proxmox. And I think that Proxmox has been making a huge surge out in the industry too. I hear a lot of people talking about it. At work, I almost exclusively deal with big physical machines, so I only do virtualization out here with you guys. And professionally, guys, I deal with servers that are like terabytes and terabytes of RAM, and they're huge, just beefy servers all up and down in rows for like NOAA weather and all these different types of big projects that I work on. So I don't get to do a lot of virtualization anymore. I did earlier in my career, and when I was over on insurance, I did. But right now I'm doing all big physical boxes that do scientific computations, right? And that's fine, But I'm telling you, like, Proxmox, from what I read and see in the industry, like on LinkedIn and talking to people, is making a big surge because ESXi is between 4 and 10 times more expensive now to renew for everybody than it was even the year before. Well, I think it's been like a year and a half now. But my point is, it's just gotten so expensive that people are looking to get out of there. But what do you need for software? Hypervisor, Proxmox, XCP, NG is what I use. Older. What do you need for software? You're probably going to use something like that, right? So what hypervisor? What automation? So automation, orchestration, or some people might even call this build tools. And the ones that I would maybe posit that you guys should use are Ansible. That's mine that you guys see me use the most. Terraform or Open Tofu, right? And I think that's how they spell it. Well, I know that's how they spell it, but I think that's how they write it. Ansible, Terraform, and how are you going to build these things, right? Now, I use a tool that does the build differently, and you guys that have been around and have seen me deploy like my Hammer servers and stuff, you know that we're doing this. Nick Hill said, which lab am I working on? I'm not actually doing a lab right now, Nick Hill. I'm just talking about a home lab. Like if somebody were to build out a home lab, kind of what I think they need to think about. So you're pretty much caught up right there. And then I was down here just talking generally in an environment, if you were going to go do the lab, if I haven't talked you out of it up here, as you probably don't need it, if the point for some of you was to have a home lab to show a potential employer or a potential customer, if you're doing contract work, that you know how to run this stuff, then this would be the things that I would start to think about. Generally in an environment, you do that, and then I would say you need some type of monitoring. You don't need monitoring, strictly speaking, but I think you should have monitoring. Monitoring can take many forms. We tend to use something like, I guess if you just think of it like ingest, where are you getting stuff in, node, exporter, telegraph. Other tools are Promtail. I think Promtail just got supplanted by a tool, but I don't remember what that tool's called. Storage, maybe time series database. And those ones tend to be like maybe Prometheus or InfluxDB, right? Those are the kind of common ones. But guys, by the way, there's a whole bunch of them. There's Timescale. Was it Timescale DB, which I think is AWS's version, and plenty of other things like that. And then other ones for monitoring is Presentation. And the king of presentation by far, Grafana. But guys, we could add more to this. We could say any of the beats. So there's the things called the beats. Metric beat. There's like 30 different beat ones. And then storage could be Elasticsearch or OpenSearch, which that's the one that got forked by Amazon, right? And then presentation doesn't have to be Grafana; it could be Kibana. There's man, we can keep going on this if we really wanted to. This one could get, all these things can get really deep if we wanted to. But the point is, what do you need for software? And then this is kind of, I probably should have this one first, but it's like, the OS. What are you going to run? Maybe I'll put this up here. Like, what are you going to use? Like, what do you Alloy? Alloy's the one that Promtail's turning into, you're right. We need to actually switch our lab over to that. So that's going to be one that I work on here soon, where we go move all the alloy stuff over there. But yeah, then, like, what are you going to run, man? Like, I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you go build a whole big lab and you do all these things and make all this cool stuff, and then you just populate it with, like, Arch and FreeBSD and I mean, you just find every niche Linux that you can find. I mean, that's cool. But, I mean, you're basically playing with, like, if you were playing percentages, you might, you know, Rel, who has, like, easily 90+% of the industry, or maybe Rocky that I'm seeing right now probably getting like at least 5% plus of the industry now, or maybe Ubuntu. You guys hear me say Ubuntu and probably like, Scott's just being a jerk. No, they probably got around 5% of the industry, things that are going through Canonical and stuff. So yeah, Raleigh, I do think Windows is more of an application driven thing right now for sure. But where I'm going with this is like, man, if you can do all of these things, and then like you could do every one of the weird niche things you can find in Linux, and you're probably going to approach like, right? Oh, what's the one, man, guys? I'm going to tell you right now, I have nothing wrong with this version of Linux. We were actually talking about it yesterday. It's a perfectly fine version of Linux for people that love controlling things. I love controlling things and making immutable servers for different reasons. But Nyx OS, these things have no percentage of the market. And my point is, if the point is to get into the industry, you shouldn't be working all your time on things that aren't in the industry. Yeah, I got nothing wrong with Nyx. We were running in the home lab before. Nothing wrong with it. It's a great tool. It builds good stuff. For some reason, it's just not. Nobody's built a business use case convincing enough to get it in anywhere that I've seen. There was one of our guys. God, I don't even want to try to quote who it was, but it was one of our regulars was telling me the other day that he has like a small little environment that he runs for himself. It's like his own little dev environment, and he spins it up with Nyx OS. He's the only one I know. He's the only one I've talked to. I mean, I talk to hundreds of people in the industry for sure each week. And and it's funny, yeah, Nyx is exactly where I've heard Rel going. In fact, when I was sitting in a meeting in 2019 with Red Hat, they sent about 40 people out to come sit with us. And we were deploying new stuff and doing all the stuff, and they were trying to really push OpenShift on us. And they were really talking about not logging into servers anymore. Is it not FIPS compliant too? That's the other thing. If you don't get FIPS, that's FIPS, guys. If you don't get that Federal Information Processing Standard stamp, we can't even play with you. And we're talking like that's hundreds of thousands of servers, right? Like all this government stuff and all these other things. If I can't get FIPS compliant, I can't even talk about it. Like it's not even, yeah. So it needs some flags. Well, yeah, everything needs some. Like I have to turn on FIPS stuff for Rocky all the time. So yeah, there's definitely more to it. Raleigh said Rel 10 has embraced boot C containerized OS images. Yeah, most of the operating systems you guys will work with won't be FIPS out of the box, and the reason they won't be that out of the box is because this goes back to, I'm not going to open it right now, guys, but when I open up my Stig viewer and I show you all 436 Stigs for like a rel image, and you look at them and you go, well, Scott, aren't those all automated with Ansible? And I say yes. And then you say, well, why don't we just turn them all on and just have a fully compliant Linux box out of the gate? Why don't we? Couldn't you do that? And the answer that's easy. The problem is that breaks everything else. There's this old adage in the industry that security is the enemy of productivity, and we love to be as secure as possible, but man, I can't turn off literally everything and still have something. I have to turn some things open. Oh man, sorry Rizushi, you might have to go. The ad break shouldn't be that long. It says it's got 40 seconds left, but I think YouTube skips most of that stuff, so you might be able to skip that. Yeah. So my point in that is you can pick whatever OS you guys want, right? But I'm just telling you, like, you should build what is gonna help you. If you're building the lab out, if you tell me, Scott, the reason that I'm building out this lab is to help me position myself as a Linux admin and Linux engineer to get in the industry, then I'm gonna tell you, don't shoot yourself in the foot using stuff that's not in the industry. And then if somebody comes along later and goes, oh, why do you got such a Red Hat environment, this and this and this, you go, hey, I was shooting for the biggest target, man, and like 95% of the industry is that OS, so that's what I went for, right? So that's my point to you guys is I tell you guys all the time, you can ask me down Discord, you can go look through all the Discord chats back to the time we started the server. I've never told anybody they have to run anything to talk to us or hang out. I don't even require you hang out and run Linux if you don't want. You do whatever the hell you want. But I'm going to tell you, though, if you say, hey, Scott, I want to get in the industry, I'm going to tell you, well, you got to start moving this way. You got to start moving towards things that are in the industry, at least to get in. We can still play around with any other operating system we want. So I'm not saying that you can't be Arch or BSD or any of these other cool. There's all kinds of cool operating systems, guys. But the ones that the industry is going to pay you for are probably going to be RHEL, Rocky, Ubuntu, right? All right. So what else do we do? So we started out, for people who got here a little later, I was showing you guys around my home lab a little bit and showing you guys kind of what I have built out. And then we were talking about like what are you trying to do in your home lab? And I might posit that if you wanted to build your home lab for different projects, we have stuff up in Killer Code, or in our Discord rather. If you go to like our ProLUG Projects, this channel, if you scroll all the way up, right, in our ProLUG Projects, these are all old projects and stuff that we've done. This channel started, I remember when we started this channel, ProLUG Projects. Go all the way to the back to the beginning of it. Takes a little bit to get up there. We started this because of the monitoring deep dive project that I gave you guys. And you guys that want to do that project, this is, we did some kind of like weekend sessions. I could do a weekend session this weekend if you guys wanted to just sit around and build monitoring out. But we built monitoring for a lab. Then you had the PowerPoints, and you could go turn this into a little project that you could have as part of a portfolio. And people were down here building their different pieces, right, as they were building their stuff. Some of the guys even did this. I think this might have been in Proxmox for some of you, right? And then, you know, we were building stuff and we were writing, like we had some Python writing into Loki so that we had different stuff going on. And then we kept coming down and you know, tracking messages out and pulling stuff out of the servers. This was Nor writing in there, right? And then you could go and you could build out this stuff. But anyways, the point is there's a whole bunch of projects like that in our Discord if that was why you were building out a home lab. So then we talked a little bit about costs, and there's different costs associated with it. And then this first little block here was me kind of trying to talk you out of even running a home lab. This thing was like, well, what if you just didn't even bother running a home lab? You just went and did all the stuff you wanted to online. Guys, there's a lot of stuff online you can do without paying anything and building anything. How's it going, Matthew Devs? Thanks for the follow. We are just hanging out talking about building out a home lab environment for people that want to. It's like maybe you already do Linux or you want to do more Linux, but some people build out home labs for specific projects or they just want to have their own storage. A lot of guys I know have built them out so they have Plex servers and retro game nights and that kind of stuff. Yeah, Matthew Devs. This is what we do around here is we're all, you know, 20 hours of Linux learning. Yeah, we're all Linux. I would say everybody here is probably at least a Linux hobbyist. And then the goal of our group, the stated goal of our professional Linux users group is to get people into doing it professionally. So you'll hear me allude to that often. However, anybody can just hang out, right? There's no requirement that you're doing anything to hang out with us, right? We've got Discord with about 4,100 people. I think there's a little thing at the bottom telling you guys all that stuff. But yeah, anyway, so I was trying to kind of talk you guys out of building your own lab because I don't think you need to spend any money up front. But then if you had your own laptop already, you could probably run a really light version of a lab with no extra hardware. You could run your own Type 2 hypervisor on your machine. You can spin up and have your whole VMs, whatever you guys needed. It's just that you know, taxes your system a little bit. You could use Windows Subsystem for Linux and do all those kind of things. You could run local Docker and spin up and build containers, and there's all kinds of things you can do without really getting into building your own hardware out, right? Then we just said, okay, so you've decided you're gonna build a lab out, and I say, okay, let's build a lab. What do you need for hardware? Well, you probably need some type of router, but you probably already have that, but it's gonna be limited on ports, but it's gonna be able to do your Wi-Fi for you securely, which is important. You maybe have to get some type of switch if you're going to be having these devices talk to each other, and you are, again, probably only limited to like 4 ports on most home routers. So then you just buy a little unmanaged switch, but you're not going to be able to do VLANs there natively. Typically, your VLANs are going to be done inside of your virtualized systems, right? So then you pull up something like, I use XCP-NG, and I have all my networking going on in here, and I do have different VLANs. Anytime you introduce VLANs in a network, guys, you have to have a router. And my router that I use, instead of using the one for my home router, I have an internal router that's built on a Linux box. The Linux box, IP tables, the kernel of a Linux system can handle pretty much everything you need. So that's just my little C router box that does all my IP routing, right? That's all it does. So, yeah, Matthew Devs, that's what we're talking about here, just home lab stuff for people. I think that before anybody goes and spends any time or money on a home lab, they should at least do some of these other things and make sure they like it, right? Like for people that come here and they go, all right, Scott, I already do Linux and I like it. And I say, okay, cool. Then let's start building something. But for people that are like, I don't know if I like Linux, or I don't know if I do whatever, then I tell those guys, well, let's go play with Killer Coda for a few months. Can you do 15 minutes a day on Killer Coda for a month, and then if you tell me you can do that, then maybe you can sit at a command line like this all day. Because I tell you guys, sometimes, like, you know, I have college students. I've been teaching college for a long time, and my college students, they'll sometimes come to me and I'll ask them a question about something, you know, some Cisco command line or some kind of Linux thing like this, and they'll go, oh, I hate that. And I'm like, man, you spent a lot of money to find out that you hate the job, because this is the job right here. This thing I'm doing right here down at on the left side there with all the words in the terminal and the standard input and standard output, that's the job. This is what people pay us for right here. Like, if you hate that, like, I tell my I've actually told a few students this over the years. I don't say this very much because I don't want to get in trouble with the college, but it's like, man, that's an expensive mistake to make it this far and realize you hate doing this. I wish somebody would have told me online for free like this. Because I would rather sit in this stream for 30 minutes and be like, 1, I can't stand to listen to this guy for another second, and 2, I could not sit at a terminal like that for another second. I need to go click around in a Windows box. Okay, sure, there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing. I told you guys, I don't care what systems you're using to get to Linux either. You guys will find that for productivity reasons, I use Windows all over the place. It's what I have to use to connect into my NOAA systems. I have government systems that I have to connect in with. But then once you get me to a terminal, I don't care what the other thing is. Matthew Dev said, I do like tech and Linux, but I will always give up to continue my addiction for social media. That's funny. Yeah, we talk about doom scrolling sometimes, right? Like, people will spend 4 hours doom scrolling, but they won't spend 20 minutes getting better at Linux. That's also going to hold a lot of people down. It's going to make it hard for people, I'm sure, too. So, all right. So then we talked about that, and then I talked about what your build out might look like. Do you want to use Raspberry Pis? There's nothing wrong with them, but they're more, you know, individual small devices typically. They're not really fit for warranty, so if you put any load on them and they crash, you can't really be surprised. Replace one addiction with another. You can make good money in Linux, so I try to tell people, come do Linux. The water's warm, plenty of work for us. Some types of devices to virtualize. Maybe you get a mini PC. Something, guys, I want to buy this one. This one's not going to be on the cheap end. But the Digits project, you guys have seen this, right? Where's it at? Hold on. I think they've changed the name of this, though. I want to get one of these little NVIDIA. I don't need it as the Spark. They were calling it Digits before, but I don't think they're for sale yet. Yeah, they're still under reserve now. I'm just gonna virtualize it up, and I'm just gonna put it in our environment. I'll just make it one of my Werewolf nodes that'll boot up and do all the things. Rizushi, that blog post didn't come through. You might need to drop it on our Discord. If you drop it on Discord, I'll see it. What's that? That's me streaming. Jobs and interview stuff. General. Boom. Just drop it in here if you would. Or drop it somewhere and I'll grab it. It'll be my risky click of the day, right? But yeah, I want to add this in and then we can use this for some of our processing. I want to say this thing was going to be about like $4 grand. But I already got approval from the wife to buy it. So this thing will be pretty solid for our home lab. Maybe we'll do some research on it. You drop it in general, nice. What is this? SC Linux and Nyx OS, nice. Okay. Got it running. It's interesting. And you got to relabel everything so that it has the right... Because all SC Linux does at the end of the day is run labels over everything, right? Some packages. For people that want to know how... there's a really good SC Linux doc over here in... Rocky, and I show this to you guys sometimes because it's kind of an important thing for you guys to know that there are really good explanations of how these things work out there, right? So if anybody's ever like, what's an SC Linux and why do I care? Well, that'll help you figure it out. I actually make the guys read that in the in our security engineering course. So we do have a security engineering course that we run. Actually, I'm thinking about rerunning it in a few weeks again too. So if anybody wants to get involved in that, I'll always give you guys time, but it'll be an event. It'll show up here in events. So events coming up, we got our Bash study group on Saturday. That's 10 a.m. my time. And then there's a late night Bash study at 10 p.m. my time. I'm going to run that one, but then I know that that's a better time for some people on the other side of the planet. So really, you just got to go in there and check stuff out. Hey, Robodom, how's it going? Thanks for the resubscription. Robodom's one of my oldest mods, by the way, guys. Not oldest in age, but oldest in having been around here. And then pen testing industry, we're going to have a professional pen tester come out and talk to you guys, too. So that'll be good. All right. Anyway, so then we were over here. We were just talking about how to build this stuff out. And then I was saying generally in an environment, you need DHCP, right? You got to do something to configure these boxes as they come up. And then you need some type of inventory. Typically it's done with either DNS records or like static host files. Then you need to have some kind of server images and running servers. You need to have some type of inventory of those things. And different hypervisors are going to do that different ways. So you probably need a hypervisor to carve up one of your machines. It acts as a host, and then you can have multiple guest machines underneath it, right? So what are some of those? Proxmox XCP-NG. You got Firecracker. Firecracker is AWS, right? That's AWS type. I'm trying to think of other ones that you could run. You can run ESXi, but I'm not sure. Still free. Right, like I'm not 100% sure if that's still free or not, but you used to be able to just run ESXi. And then some of my buddies, they like Michael Pessa, he was paying like 120 a year, but that's only $10 a month. But he did that so he had like their full support and stuff, and then he was able to do all kinds of other stuff. Yeah, Robodom letting you know about the Discord. Also, Robodom, you can let the Twitch guys know about YouTube if you would. Guys, there's a YouTube channel that is more persistent than this, right? Like if you need to watch some of this again. Matthew Devs, 4K is a lot, yes, but 4K for the engineering time that we would put into it and all the different people that would be on that box would be pretty reasonable. 4K is not bad. I just spent like $700 on this weekend getting all the speakers and getting all the other stuff going. You know, we had a big event down in our Discord this weekend, our annual event. So, yeah, there's that. Yeah, I appreciate you hanging out, Matthew Devs. You guys are, everybody's kind of welcome to hang out as we work through stuff. So you got to have a hypervisor. Then I think you should have some type of automation tool, right, for how you're going to build the things and get into them. You have to have some monitoring. Monitoring is very optional, right? Like you can monitor as much or a little of your environment as you need. But then OS, what are you going to run? Arch, Nyx OS, right? Like, what are you doing here? Right. I just want to make sure that that's true for both of those. But then, something professional that the industry uses, maybe you want RHEL or Rocky or Ubuntu. And then, then the question is like, what do you want to do? And this is what I kind of got asked about, like, what do you want to do with your home lab? And I guess one of the things you would do is just operate it. Right? Just operate it, keep it running, be able to talk about what's going on with it. Yeah, Robdon. The conference is one of the high points of the year, I think. Like everybody gets together and gets to hang out and stuff. Yeah, and get to talk with different people from around the industry and stuff. But maybe you just want to operate it and keep the system running. So like in my home lab, I have different diagrams here, but this is one of them. I use my home lab for you guys to be able to get into it from the outside world. So anybody that's as part of our admins or our security course, which are free courses in our Discord, you guys can come in as ProLUG at prolug.asuscom.com. You hit my external home router. You come into the DMZ, which is P01 Jump 02. P01 Jump 02 jails you and then sends you to either the Rocky 1 or the Rocky 1 through 5 or the Hammer 1 through 5 servers, right? And that process, if you guys have never seen it before, kind of looks like this, right? I can just SSH over. I don't even remember what hold on, I gotta go grab the password. I don't have a password in my memory. Actually, I think I know where it is, but let me just grab it real quick here. So I drop this in right here. Boom. You guys get this, and then now I've given myself 10 seconds to get in here, and I have admin course, security engineering course, or exit. If I don't type anything, this is going to kick me out. So it's kicked me out. We'll wait a second for the ad to finish, guys. We'll wait. All right, we waited for ad. And it looks like some of the people for ads are back. I'll give it a minute. Seems like some people get shorter ads than others. It probably just depends on where you're at on the internet. But what I did was I started to connect to this server and then I didn't connect. But now I'm going to try to connect again. And now I'm going to connect in. And I'm in a jail. I can't do anything. If I type any buttons, it just kicks me out. If I don't make a decision, if I just sit here for 10 seconds, it's going to kick me out. But what's going to happen is I'm going to wait. I'm going to let it kick me out one more time, and then I'll go back in. I'll go here, boom, go again, get in there. And then now I'm going to say I want to go to the security engineering course, and I'm going to get dropped into one of the Hammer servers. And then in the Hammer server, I should have all of the systems that I need to, right? All the things that I might need. And then for you guys that don't know, there's actually a whole book on this, right? So there's a Linux admin course book, which is a free book that we have. This is a free book on the Linux admin stuff. You connect into that the same way off of the internet. You don't use the streamer anymore. Now you just use ProLUG. And then we have another course called the Security Engineering course, which is PSC. And then this is the Security Engineering course here. And you guys can connect in on that if you want to as well. So I dropped that on both sides for you guys. And all that to say, like, what do you want to do with your home lab, right? Like, you've built this home lab up and you're doing whatever you're doing with it. This is what I do with it. And I do all kinds of other things with it, but this is a part of what I do with it. Here's my different network VLANs, and then Werewolf is over here doing DHCP for me in this network. And then I have other things that I'm adding over here for people to be able to connect in and do Linux on, basically, right? I'm Veer Singh said, correct me if I'm wrong, these books also have video sessions. Yes. So if I just clicked on one real quick, I'll just click on one of these, like the ProLUG. If we went to worksheet, you would see this is my recording from the system. Yeah. Sometimes I'm live and you guys can see me, and sometimes I'm not. So, there. Well, Matthew Debs, you don't have to feel dumb. I don't try to make anybody feel dumb. You guys are definitely, you know, if you don't do this stuff, it's fine to not do this, but the goal is to get you guys doing this. So, you know, it's more of like a follow along type thing than it is feel dumb type thing. And then this is how the Bastion works. So if you guys have never seen my little Bastion system, you come in, you hit the P01 Jump 02 server, you get jailed. Your ProLUG user gets jailed via SSH. You go into var ProLUG ch root. The only things I have in there for you to play with are bash, curl, and SSH because you're jailed. And then I drop you down in, and you make that decision based on that Bastion shell script that you see, and it sends you to either one of the admin Rocky 1 through 5 or security Hammer 1 through 5 servers. And then that drops you in over here. Boom. So on this box, oh, I'm still in there. Yeah, so this is the server I'm in. If I exit this real quick, it zips me all the way back out, and then I can come over here, and this one is actually, all this one's doing is watching, and now see Hammer is gone because I was logged into it, so now it's going to disappear from the list. And when I come back over here and try to connect back in, it's only going to be able to send me to one of the other, like it's going to send me to Hammer 3 now when I go to my security course. Yeah, so it sends me a Hammer 3 this time. See that? Because Hammer 1 and 2 are used now. Well, Matthew Debs, that's fine. This is, I'm going through a lot of stuff, so this is like me kind of going. In fact, my wife went to, where is she at? She's up in Wyoming right now. She went up to Casper, Wyoming, so she's out of town for a few days, so I'm just going to be hanging out, brain dumping on here. So, you said you're holding a hammer right now? That's funny. Yeah, you can always record the references. You can also always ask questions in stream. There's quite a few people. One of the nice things about Professional Linux Users Group having 4,100 people in it is there's probably, 10 useful people in there that'll actually help and won't try to. I try to foster a environment where it's not just like, oh, you don't know that. You don't know what a kernel is. You fucking stupid. Like, I don't like that. Like, I don't think that's, by the way, that's what the normal Linux industry is like. That's what the average Linux engineer and Unix engineer I know is like. They think they're better than everybody, and it's like that. We could be that way, but that's not really going to help anybody else. So we try to stay away from that. Matthew Devs, I don't have as much problem with them. I just can tell you that they always come in here and tell me they do Arch, and I'm like, well, cool, bro. Like, I don't necessarily need to hear everybody's life story, I don't mind if people use Arch. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just it's not a professional Linux. It doesn't get used in the industry. So, in fact, I've not yet heard somebody tell me one place where it is being used. So, I don't know. What do you do with your home lab? Operate, build, personal projects, build, professional projects. Those are the things I'd build in my home lab. Things that are useful and interesting. Matthew Devs, I think all Linux users will eventually try to bully you to quit. That's like a thing about Linux. That's like it's like a self-cleaning or self-healing thing where they just kind of try to keep everybody out. We call, guys, trust me, Matthew Devs, this is true of all industries. There's always people that we call gatekeepers, and gatekeepers are people who just try to keep the gate. They don't let people in, right? And you're going to find that across all industries. It's really bad in the security industry. Like, I used to hate getting into meetings with other security engineers because it would just, like, the whole beginning of that meeting would just be everybody trying to measure who's got the, we'll say in internet terms, who's got the biggest EPEAN, right? That's EPEE is the term for a sword, right? It's a type of fencing sword. And then EPEAN is the way they say it online, right? That's the way they say it on the interwebs there. So, yeah, I'm Veer saying, yeah, I hope this stuff is useful to you. There's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of topics to go over and a lot of things to work through. I was just, today, I really wanted to hop on and give you guys some stuff about a home lab, maybe what you build. And then what I do with these guys, typically I'll take all these notes like this, home lab build out, and I'll take this and I will go drop it in the Discord. We have a section for notes. So like when we do meeting notes, I'll just boom. And there's all the notes. So if anybody needs my notes, there they are. And we have, gosh, we have so many old notes up here of different things that we've worked on and stuff. What I need to do, I have to do some planning in the home lab. I need to figure out what I want to do with some of this other stuff. So this is part of what I have to build out. So this was lab. So this was ProLUG Lab topics, build out. And right here was, these were the things that I built the last few days into the images so that they're more like they were before I blew the image away. Yeah, Matthew Devs, I've been teaching for, you mentioned you were 16 years old. I've been teaching for 17 years. So I've been a college professor. I've been an engineer for about 25 years, pretty close to 25 years. Maybe not quite professionally, let's say about 22 years. But yeah, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy getting other people into the industry. I like hearing that somebody got into the industry. That's a great thing. Yeah, Matthew Devs, I'm going to tell you, you can't waste time at Killer Coda. Everything you do over there is going to be useful. Everything you do over there is directly somebody from the interwebs trying to show you how the internet and systems work and stuff. And you go pick up some of that Kubernetes stuff. Oh, Kubernetes is super valuable to the industry. If I got anybody here right now that's working in Kubernetes, they can tell you. So I'll tell you guys a Kubernetes story in general, right? Like I got my CKA a couple years back. In fact, I think it's going to lapse this year. Maybe, yeah, I think it lapses this year. And I got a message a few months ago, probably about 6 months ago now. This lady messaged me out of the blue and says, hey, you've got exactly what I think we need for this project. We're doing a bunch of OpenShift in Kubernetes. And I said, wow, that's really cool. I mean, I said, you're doing OpenShift, which I have no experience in OpenShift. But my brother, who still happens to work at that insurance company that I used to work at, my brother, he does have all that OpenShift experience. You should talk to him. And she's like, all right, give me his info and I'll send over some stuff. So he talks to her. Now he's got a little side gig that he does for I think a little less than 20 hours a week, but they're paying him, I don't want to put all his business out there, but it's something like $75 an hour, which is actually technically a pay cut for him. But if it's side work, what's wrong with making $75 an hour, guys? There's nothing wrong with that, right? But my point in showing you all that is there's a lot here. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of good. I mean, he does that on the side. He's already an engineer, and he can get that on the side too. So, yeah, Matthew Devs, you might find out more use for Kubernetes if you had use cases or found reasons that people are doing it, or if you were studying for a cert, that would also give you like a framework to look at, right? Having a cert to work for is always useful as well, I think. But I got to figure out, how do I want to deploy this T-shoot thing? So I don't think we're going to split the decision out in the Bastion. What I mean by that is right here, I don't think I'm going to make you go to a different course. I think you're still going to go to the admin security course. And I think what we're going to do for T-shoot is this. Build a runtime overlay so we can deploy in real time, right? And then, yeah. And then that runtime overlay will be able to set up the node for the person who logs in. So what the workflow will be is people will get into the admin course. They'll get dropped into the dev servers, which, by the way, let me show you guys what the dev servers look like. I think, I don't think I have this selected anymore. Give me one more second here. I probably should just put the key. I think I have the key over here somewhere. I can just put the key in there. And they'll just connect. But I don't mind doing the password for the connection to test. But I'm going to go into the admin course real quick and see the admin course gets the... Oh, that's interesting. I thought I had that set. Hold on. Wait a minute. Huh. Hold on. Now I'm confused. Not really confused, but one is taken, 2 is taken. Let's wait for this to wipe. 1 will go away here in a second. And then we'll reconnect. Admin course. Oh, Rocky 1. Okay. Rocky 1 hasn't rebooted, so let's let him reboot real quick. The problem is, here's the problem. I hadn't pushed the new image to him, so let's watch him boot real quick. Watch him boot at the physical console, right, which is really a virtual console, but let that come up. Matthew Devs, you're trying step 1 per time, electronics, computer networking, etc. That's good. There's nothing wrong with that. I think electronics is a great place to start. I really do think that most engineers somewhere in their career, whatever flavor of engineering you do, you go back to wanting to do like some electronics and some mechanical engineering. Like everybody wants to go build like a little, what's that? Like a little light display or something useful in the real world with their engineering skills, even if they're just like a systems engineer like me. Watch, we're gonna let this boot real quick. Once that boots, we'll get the system up. Agalord, sorry, I haven't even looked at anything you've been saying. You're trying to encrypt your task list on Trello. Infra for decrypt for Trello. Uses in K8's cluster. Okay. You doing an ingress? Yep. Ingresses are good to know. It's good to know how those work. I actually have you guys do an ingress on our 3-tier app. That's another project I make you guys do that, well, people that want to do it. All right, that's going to boot. We're going to come back over here, and we're going to say, what's that all about? Actually, for right now, that should just, hold on. This should work. Most people log into this with keys. Oh. What? What's going on here? Why is my password not working? That is definitely not optimal. Copy, paste. Oh, that's weird. Weird. Huh. Saying that ProLUG has have an authentication error, but that's not. Huh. Let's give him one more shot here. One more college try. That worked via just typing it, so that's weird. All right, anyways, there's our dev. So now dev is on Rocky 1 again. All right, but that's super weird. Why wasn't that working just like that? Anyways, it's neither here nor there. But the point is, yeah, Matthew Dev, I appreciate you coming by. You're always welcome to come hang out again. Egglord, what'd you say? Daily got to where I started front-end engineering bootcamp 2020, fell in love with Vim and never looked back. Nice. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Where were we at here? But I'll put this back over here. Although we're not really working on the home lab stuff anymore. I mean, we are more working on this, which is our stuff, our troubleshoot part of it. So what we would need to do then for building this out is it kind of looks more like this. So there's a bunch of overlays. And overlays work in two ways with Werewolf. There's either a system overlay or a runtime overlay, right? And what a system overlay does is it only occurs in the first, as the server boots. It's loaded instantaneously as it first comes up. The ones that we use for that are things like typically our FS tab, our host file, our, some of these basic ones that come up. But then sometimes we want things to be automatically updating all the time. So some things, and I should be able to, let's see, let's go with a -A. And what this will show us is, oh, that gives me everything. That may be more than I want. An easier way to see it might be like this. Let's do node list. And then let's say like Rocky 1, right? And Rocky 1 will have its runtime overlays, and these things are always being updated as long as WWInit is running on a server. So while a server that's connected to the cluster is up, he's going to automatically always pull hosts, SSH, and authorized keys. That's going to cause you some problems as you build things, because sometimes you'll build things and it'll change your host file, or it'll change your... It's interesting. This thing doesn't have... Where's this other thing at down here? I don't see it here. But typically, like your etc passwd file, which we can come find where that's out of up here. etc passwd comes from sync user, and sync user is only going to be built into the container, I believe. So that's not going to update anymore. But down here, these are all these things that are happening down here. Okay. Actually, we're going to rerun that other command here real quick. So overlay -A, grep-i for pwd, or pass wd real quick. Just see, that's from sync user, huh? Okay. So only sync user does that. That's not running at all times, so that's fine. So anyways, where I'm going with that is we're going to build a new runtime overlay. And what the runtime overlay is going to do is it's going to be, we'll probably call them, because there's two types of images. There's the Rocky image and the Hammer image, right? And we'll probably apply it only to the Rocky devices, so the devices that have Rocky, so Rocky 1 through 5. We'll give them a runtime overlay. No, Joe Bob, so to answer your question, I saw it earlier, but I was kind of focused on these other things. I will use whatever tool I need, but my daily driver for work is actually a Windows box, and the reason for that is it's a government-funded piece of equipment, like government-furnished, and I'm not allowed to change that, right? So even if I wanted to even if I wanted to put a Linux desktop on that, I couldn't. My personal driver, my personal home machine, I prefer using, I do a lot of gaming, which I shouldn't, but I do. So that one tends to be a Windows box as well. However, all of my lab stuff, all of my work is at a terminal like this for the most part. So yeah. I really only use, like I tell people, like I only really use Windows for like the productivity things. And it's like, I tell people like I love Linux. I've been doing it for a long time. But like there's things that there's no Linux open source tool that compares with certain Windows tools. And people say, well, like what? Active Directory. Active Directory is so good. Guys, this is how good Active Directory is, in case anybody wonders. It's so good that they built it into Azure, right up in the cloud. And it's so good that AWS, who is a direct competitor with Azure in the cloud, still has to have AWS Active Directory because the tool is so effing good that even though it's from a competitor, they have to run it. It's that embedded. It's like I don't know. Last I checked, it was like 99% of the market uses Active Directory for users. They have that shit cornered. And it's actually really good. So we connect into that with LDAP. We use tools like SSSD. Anyways, my point is, I don't, even though I'm a professional Linux user and that's all I've been doing as an engineer for the last 20 something years, I don't hate any other tool. And I'll tell you guys that a lot, where like people will come in and be like, I use only Arch Linux. And I'm like, that's wonderful. Unfortunately, that's not going to get you in the industry. We need to get you into tools that people use. So anyways, my point in saying all that is I will use any tool to get into my environment, but for productivity reasons, for using like Slack and other things, I'm fine with using, a Windows environment. And I do realize that a lot of that stuff and gaming is getting better on Linux, and I hear all that all the time. I don't doubt that, but like I have 5 monitors here, and I know that that's going to cause me problems in a Linux desktop. And then like, you know what I'm saying? Like I just have like massive amounts of other things that, yeah, it's just unfortunate, but Windows tends to do better. Although I do curse, like I cursed to high heavens like yesterday morning when I came in and my fucking box had rebooted. Oh, I hate it. I hate it. Like, cause you don't really run the thing. You don't really own the thing. It just fucking reboots whenever it wants. That's annoying. So, anyways, yeah. Hopefully that answers your question. But let's go look at this overlay thing. So we got to build an overlay, and we will use it to set up the problems for the lab. So what I had done before was I built these 3 container images, and that's just, it's kind of bulky and unwieldy for just like some little things. So let's go find this is the course syllabus for the Linux admin group. Let's go find the last week, where in the worksheet, oh, not the worksheet, that's me. In the worksheet over here, hold on. Here's the different scenarios, right? And what we'll do is we'll have it install and then configure the broken things that we need for the lab to work the way that we want it to, if that makes sense. So when I broke this, so when you click that you want to do troubleshooting lab 1, it's going to install HTTPD, right? It's going to install the web server. And then it's going to go modify and break this file to listen on port 8087 instead of 8080. So we're 80 rather. Yeah, so let's go build that, because we can build that with Ansible. Excuse me. Let's go check a couple things too, though. Rocky 2. Let's just go to Rocky 3. That's fine. It'll be out of the way. And let's say Ansible. Ansible's not there. So that's another thing I got to add into these. How is Ansible not there? Oh, man. All right. Let's go here. Where do I have it? Exec. Oh, shit. Exec Rocky Linux 9. I legitimately. Here we go. Rocky Linux 9. We'll do. We're going to add these packages to the tool. I thought I had this all in here. I'm sorry, guys. But I do want to add this to my documentation, though, and say then that we were adding in Ansible for configuration. So it's going to be some self-configuration that's going to be built, but that's fine. That's all fun. That's all part of it. We get what we get. Build that in there. And we're gonna build, yes. Let it run. And then now, since this won't be on the nodes in real time, we'll just go ahead and install them. This is kind of an interesting little practice for people to think about in, like, how do you make something persistent? This is gonna be persistent against all the nodes after they reboot, because I'm doing this against the container image, but we also need to build it into the current running system. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do that with a simple little install. So Let's go real quick. Taking a little longer than I thought it would, but that's fine. All right, so we're gonna go exit, true. Got to do true and then exit. That'll build the container, right? So the container image for Rocky Linux 9 will be good. Then we need to do the hammer one too. You have that Rick and Morty. Yeah, Robodom, if you do ! ask and then ask me a question, it should do it automatically. If you want to try it real quick for me. It should run it automatically. I have a little streamer bot that does a whole bunch of actions if you guys ask me stuff. So. Also, a Robodom.
I can answer that for money.
I can answer that for money. It should go away too. It should, like, if I had my face up right now, it would automatically go away. I love that one. That's one of my favorite ones. Yeah, it only runs for about 20, somewhere between 15 and 20 seconds. It's randomized, I think. Hold on, let's let this build, and then we'll let the other thing build. I'll tell you guys what. We'll. I'm going to go on a break here in a minute. I'll take a little walk around and stuff, but I will be on camera tonight. I just was being lazy. I was just hanging out. Also, I have one of my little Linux is the Way shirts on, so if you guys have ever seen our little merch shop, Linux is the Way, this is one of my favorite little shirts. The wife made me order one so I could wear it on stream. But when I come back from break, I'll be live. I've just been kind of hanging out and working through stuff. Oh, let's do this other thing. So Control-Shift-R exec, and then Control-Shift-R again until we find hammer. Yep, we want to be in hammer. DNF install -y Ansible, because we can't be bothered to answer why. We just let it go. And then we'll go, yeah, Robodom, that's part of the ProLUG merch. I'm actually hoping that people, because a lot of the stuff are like, a lot of the stuff on our merch shop is like sweaters and stuff. And I'm like, well, hopefully when it cools off and isn't, Phoenix has been 118 lately. Although it did rain last night. That was kind of nice. It was like a little bit of a monsoon coming through. But yeah, I think Phoenix only got to like 108 today or something today. So that's not terrible. Your eye and a beanie. Nice. Yeah, and then Robodom, the other thing too is I was looking at scale, and they don't have scale for next year up yet. So hopefully they get that set up, because then we can tell people to start getting ready for it, and then we'll get people to go out to Scale Conference in San Diego, Southern California. Get people out there. Yeah. I haven't seen it up on the site yet. They only have out through the end of this year for their different stuff. So that we need to get them to. All right, so guys, this is building the underlying system image. And by the way, guys, so I was making these the other day, just messing around. I'm gonna actually do a werewolf talk for work. So I was going and making stupid little AI things, and so werewolf is like, what am I doing here, right? I thought that one was funny. And then werewolf takes over the system. It takes over the area that it's in, running DHCP and TFTP and NFS and all these things. And then, oh, that's him being confused again. And then what does he care about? He cares about images, which is what we're building right now. System overlays, runtime overlays, and kernels. But kernels are built into the images. So system overlays run on first boot, and runtime overlays run every time the werewolf cluster pushes it out, right? And then this is him. This is him pushing those images, system overlays, runtime overlays, and kernels into the servers. This is maybe my favorite one, because as I'm talking about it, people are going to be like, no, he's really literally pushing those fucking things into the servers. Which is what we're doing here, in case you guys haven't seen that. That's actually what's happening right here. When I build these images and those images go, if I SSH to like Rocky 4, and then right now, look, Ansible, not there, reboot. Right? He's already failing. Who cares? And then we'll ping him. He's going to pull a new version of that image as he comes up. For people that haven't been around to see it, Rocky 4 is going to come up, and he's not going to know who he is. He's going to come up in the environment. He's going to ask DHCP, who am I? And it's going to say, oh, hold on a second. I recognize that MAC address. You're Rocky 4. Pull down all that image that was just built for Rocky 4 that was up here. Here's the Rocky 4 stuff. And he's going to pull the new version. Watch, you're going to see him identify himself right here. over iPixie. He's calling out to DHCP. I don't know who I am, and it goes, "Hey, buddy, you're Rocky 4." Because I know that because your MAC address. Your MAC address doesn't change. Here's your image that we just built, the Rocky Linux 9, and then we did Hammer next. But now when we go in there in a second, he's going to have... He's, by the way, he's on a DHCP address right now, so we won't be able to ping him on his correct... what is he? He's 154 is his IP. Oh, no, his IP is just 54. He's not going to be up yet, but once his initramfs boots over to DRACUT and gets his real image up, he will start to respond on 192.168.200.54, and then we'll SSH over to him. Agalord said that werewolf looks quite buff for someone that sits at a computer all day. That's actually funny. Guys that work in data centers get a lot of activity. So like one of our guys, Enzo, does a lot in data centers and stuff, and I'm pretty sure he stays pretty active. Like, because data center work is almost like half construction, half like tech work. You know, there's a good amount of something in between. All right, so this image is coming up. I do need to clean this up a little bit, but it's if name ETH0. Yeah, that's fine. A little bit of warnings and stuff in there. We can look stuff up. We don't have multiple interfaces, so that's fine. And in a second here, when he blasts past his SE Linux boot up, he's going to come up for real. There he is, right? A few seconds here. We'll see it blow by on the right side there. And once that's done, then we'll know that yep, there we go. Boots up, he starts to go into those are his system overlays, and then he's got a running system. So now he'll be up, and Ansible will be on him. Ansible doesn't know what to do because I don't have anything configured for it yet, but the point is that tool now has it there, right? All right, there's another thing we can do here that I didn't do, but let's go Control-Shift-R Ansible, and let's go to, for these guys, let's just across the board install Ansible. So for right now on the boxes that don't have Ansible, they'll just get it, and then when they reboot with their new container image, they'll have it persistent. So it's like, see, Rocky 2 already had it. Some of them already had it, but other ones will get it here in a second. So they'll get it as they get it installed on there. So I can answer that for money. Did that thing pop back up when I was typing? All right, let me get rid of that. That's super funny to me. All right, anyway, so that's there. Rocky Linux 4 is back up and working over here at the console if we wanted to get console access on them. All right, so these things have all been built. We just got to decide how we want to do this, which is probably going to be, again, a runtime overlay, and then we'll be able to deploy in real time. So I'll start writing that here in a little bit, but we're going to take a break, walk around a little bit, get the images where we want them. I do want to check one other thing in our images. This is one of the nice things. If you guys ever use Ansible, you just hit all your boxes real quick. I just want to do a df-h and just see how much of their RAM, because they're all RAM-FS, temp-FS. So I just want to see how much they're used. So, oh, the Hammer servers are still on the smaller, they're only 4 gigs. I didn't make them bigger yet. So I might need to, oh, also looks like Rocky 2, somebody has put, this is fine by the way, but K3s has been installed. That's good. That means somebody's using it. That means I probably shouldn't mess with it. Somebody's probably using it for an actual lab, so I'm not going to break that system for them. But you'll notice that these boxes have, oh no, they are all bigger. Hold on. We can just check real quick. Free-M, right? Free-M will tell us how much memory. Okay, so I did move them all up to 8 gigs. They have approximately 8 gigs of RAM. But they're still only using half of the memory for their disk operations, so they have what you would consider relatively small disks. I might. We'll play with that separate. But there's another component to the lab that we could add, which is new lab pieces. So we might add some new lab pieces that are for the automation course. So there's a couple ways that I think that we could do the automation course. And actually, you know what? We'll probably just run it. Let's brainstorm, I guess, a little bit on how we'll do that too, because we have different ways that we can connect to our servers, different ways that we can control them. By the way, if anybody cares, We can see the node list here. We can see everything in the node list, and then for me, I might just grep like 192.168. Like that, and then maybe that would just show me what I wanted to know, and maybe it might be easier to just grep like IP add or something like that. And there's my IP addresses for the cluster. But remember I was saying earlier when we were talking about like home lab build-outs, one of the things I said was you need something in your environment that keeps an inventory. And having an inventory with a tool like Werewolf, there's so many other tools besides Werewolf, but HPCM is one of them. We use that in some big projects I'm on. Werewolf is kind of the up-and-coming one, but XCAT was a really big one for a long time. IBM owned XCAT. What other ones? Those are big ones. And that all builds into this topic here, which I sometimes show you guys, which is this guy over here. We need 800-223. So I showed you guys this one quite a bit, but like HPC, like how we do high performance compute. This is a drawing I often show people for like what's going on inside of a system, right? This is how I build most of my HPC stuff to this type of standard right here with these components or whatever. So, all right, let's move that out of the way. This out of the way. We'll get ready to build some of this stuff out here in a little bit. All right, I'm gonna put an hourglass up and say take a break. We'll do 10 minutes. So take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll do some more Linux or systems or I don't know, whatever you guys want to do. I guess, you know, I could do other labs or something if you guys wanted to learn something. But I'll be honest, man, when I try to show people how to do stuff, like, people just turn their brains off. So we're not going to necessarily do any learning stuff. We're just going to do some hanging around stuff. So, all right, I'll be back. I'm back. Yeah, I appreciate that, Robodome. All right, we still got some time. Relax. Hang out a little bit before we get back to it. You'll notice those IPs map back with what you see on this other diagram too. Here. So that IP address range here, all this is the same stuff you see over here. And you say, wait a minute, but it's the 192.168.200 dot, and then up here I only give the last octet, right? 151 through 155, 51 through 55. And we'll add and remove. We need to make, there's some other servers that we're going to add to this. Robodom, there's no recordings for the presentations, except for one person asked me to record theirs. And if they want to carve that, he was going to carve his down with all the noise out of it, so it was just his part of the talk, not like the Discord around it and everything. I did record his stuff, and if he wants to share his, he will. He was the last speaker of the day, but I didn't share my. I recorded mine yesterday technically, so people that wanted to see my Y engineering talk could go look it up. Over, it's on Twitch for subscribers, and then on YouTube it's for anybody. So. Which, it's funny, subscribers on YouTube are different than they are on Twitch. It's like a totally different, it's like they're just not using the same terminology to be assholes or something. It's like everybody's being difficult with everybody. Let's go see what's going on in Discord while we're still hanging out. I am going to use those in my presentations, I'm not kidding. People joining, you guys are welcome to join. I mostly recommend people go down to beginner start here. There's a lot of good stuff in here. A lot of good places to go and look and get more into the... Yeah, Robodom, they're definitely different beasts, and they definitely have different audiences. Like Twitch, most people on Twitch just want to be entertained, so I'm happy if I can get a very small amount of people on Twitch. YouTube is like, there's a lot of persistence in YouTube. Like there's a lot of and YouTube is like a... If I had to guess, somewhere between like 50 and 100 times bigger pond than Twitch, because Twitch is very niche to people that typically just want to be entertained, whereas YouTube is like literally everybody on planet Earth that wants to learn how to do any one thing, so. I mean, we had, last year I had a video sometime in March that like blew up to like 200,000 views just because it was like beginner to expert Linux, and that was something people were searching for, so. I don't know. It is what it is. All right, let me go fix my screen over here for a second. Turn myself on my camera. See if I can't in this environment over here. Might have to turn a light on. Oh, make that light way darker. Yeah, all the way as dark as it can go. That's probably okay. We'll pull that over here too. Yeah, that's probably fine. All right. Give you guys 2 more minutes of break. Then we'll come back into just guys, all we're doing right now is messing around with the home lab, and we're going to plan out some pieces for the automation course. That could be could be the next part of this too, right here. We could focus on that. Yeah, let's maybe focus on that for the next little bit, because that'll give me something to build out and play with. Or ChatGPT. Runamucker, how's it going? Yeah, every time we turn around, people are telling us that this new thing is about to take everyone's jobs, and then that new AI thing doesn't take everybody's jobs, right? That's like the thing. Runamucker, I actually have a stream layout I can build. Well, I have it all working, but I just don't have it turned on right now. Let me put this on for you guys. It's funny you say that, having a het LLM. I actually have a layout. Hold on, I don't have my lighting right. Hold on. I don't like any of those. Nope. Turn it down a little. It's just, it's like if I turn my camera off and turn it back on again though, it'll probably be fine. Hold on a second. There's like just a weird thing with how my camera is in my background. That'll be fine for now, I guess. I don't think that'll distract people too much. That's probably better. All right, so let's real quick. That's actually over here in this drawing. If I go to this drawing and then I scroll down here, this is how the streamer interaction process works for people who were asking questions, and then we send that question up to Loki. I just don't have it turned on right now. I mean, the answer watchers file sends it and then kicks it over. This is when you want to send it into the computer and have the computer actually run the Linux for you, and then it would actually give you a response out. I just don't have that turned on right now. And then the streamer questions of Discord. This one actually works. You guys can do !question, and it will drop questions from Discord. From Twitch or YouTube out into our Discord, so then people can answer them for you. And then I have, I don't know. I just have different crap going on in here. How symmetric encryption creates a protection of something. How asymmetric encryption does it. What the differences are. Anyways, none of those things are really germane to what we're talking about right now. We're going to build some new lab pieces out for the automation course. So let's think about what we want to do. And we can launch, well, we won't launch them from the same servers. So we're going to take, let me think here. Let's think about this. How do we want to do this? We probably won't have that many people using the environment anyways, but let's go look at how much free memory we have. So this one's got almost 60 gigs available, and this guy's got 60 gigs. So they're about the same as far as memory and capacity. So we'll use a Rocky image. So we'll keep it at the Rocky image for now. So let's do this real quick. Let's build the automation image. So image list. So we'll call it let's image copy Rocky Linux 9, and we'll call it Rocky. Let's call it Rocky 9 automation. That sound good? Or should we have, let's think of how we want to name this. What's a good way to name? I mean, we don't look at the container image much. Most of you guys will never even see it. It's really just for me and my sanity. So naming things is always the hard thing in any system. Let's just call it, this. Let's call automation. Call it automation Rocky 9. How's that? So this is going to copy the image over. Now we're going to have 3 images in our environment. And the images can have specific things baked into them. They can behave differently than other images, but they're like a baked down hardened configuration that's different than like the personalization that goes on top with system and runtime overlays, right? Like if this environment was always going to be exactly the same, we could have just done Rocky Linux, and that would have been the container image, and then we could have just had overlays for the other things. So there's different ways to do this. There's different ways to bake up an environment with this. So I'm just going to tell you, figure out how you want to do that. I am going to then, let's build one of them out. So we'll go, let's go look at like one of our images here. And probably the easiest way to do this is to clone one of these over here. So let me show you guys how we could do this. In this environment, we've got our, where do we have it? Apparently I don't have one of them. I guess we'll do it up here because I know I have the Rocky template here. And it's kind of weird. I don't know how, so I don't know how I built these out from a template. Apparently I didn't use a template at all for these. So I'm gonna go ahead and just shut down Hammer 5 for now. It's fine, don't worry. He'll be fine. He'll come back up fine when we're done with him. And let's go make his counterparts. We'll call him God, I just don't want a big long name like automation. I think that's a silly long name for a server. Let's copy within the pool. And let's call him, I don't know, we'll just call him auto1, I guess. We'll do full copy. That's fine. And then just for fun, as we're doing this, what we'll do is we'll want to grab their MAC addresses because there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either hard code in their MAC addresses or make them discoverable the first time they come up. And both of them, in our case, are one-offs, so we're just going to do it that way. We're just going to let it come up. Okay. So now if we got auto, and let's go look at his networking. Let's copy. He's going to have his own generated MAC. Every one of them is going to get their own generated MAC. And we will copy him, but I wonder if I can do a mass I don't think I can do a mass copy on this. Then same pool, full copy. And we'll call him auto2. Right. I do have an Ansible playbook that can do some of this deployment stuff, but XCP-ng is kind of old, so we're going to get stuck just kind of doing some of it by hand, which is probably not that big of a deal. We'll copy him again. Copy of auto3. Still better than waiting. All right, we'll see if that all works, and then we'll get them to come up. We'll define their new configurations, and we'll go do that. We can do it either at the command line with the werewolf commands, or we can actually go set them in the nodes file, because the nodes file is just some YAML. So it's pretty easy to do that as well if we need to. All right, auto2, networking, copy. Boom. And we'll just get all these real quick, and then we'll go and we'll build out their configs. We got to figure out what range we want to give them. I think the 101 and 201s are all used. So we'll make these like maybe we'll give these ones like the 220s. 220s is a good range. It'd be a fine range for them. They can't complain about that. Auto 3, networking. Boom. Auto 4, networking. Boom. Auto 5, networking. Boom. Okay. And then the IP range will start at we'll go 221, 222, 223, 224, 225. It's fair. That'll work for that. All right. Let's go to this real quick. Actually, let's go to... Whoops. Help if I could fucking type. There we go. All right. So there's our nodes conf from today, most recent one, and then we're going to go modify this one. You never want to modify a config file without doing some type of backup to it, because the worst I can do right now if I break this is just put it back in place. So Shift G. So here's our Rocky configs. Rockies look fine. Here's our hammer configs up here. I should be able to go like Y500Y. Oh, whoops. Y500Y. There's 75 lines that were just yanked, right? And I'll come down here to the bottom. I'll just hit P. And all I'm going to do is change these names down here from Rocky to Auto. Right? So there's a few things I'm going to change. I'm going to change these to Auto. You might say, why don't you just change them globally with like a search and replace? Don't want to do that. We have other places that are going to stay the same, so we're not changing everything. We're just going to one-off it real quick because it's easier than in the home lab. You guys don't see me build a lot of automation because I'm lazy. But you know, so then now we've got there's three other things we got to change on each of these. We can't do that faster though, so let's just go. The image is going to change to automation Rocky 9, right? Right? Should look just like that. All right. Fine. Good. That's out of the way. And then there's a few other things we got to change. We could do these actually at the command line, but it's probably easier to do them here. We're going to come up here and we're going to change this to 221. 221. This will be 222. This will be 223. Right? And then this will be 224. Yeah, the G won't work. I mean, I appreciate it, but the problem is the G would replace everything, and there's some that are still persistent that we don't want to change. So, yeah, it wouldn't work. Oh, the cursor in the file? Yeah, maybe. Now, we have to do one other thing. We're just doing this is just one off, so it's fine with me. We gotta do one other thing. So $. Oops. Hardware addresses. Hardware. $. Will delete to the end for us. Hardware. All right. So now we got those cleaned. We're just gonna pull them in. So I'm not going to try to memorize them because it's too much to try to remember. But here's one. Boom. Here's two. Here's three. Boom. 4. Here's 5. So let's go with so we see those nodes now, the auto nodes. Let's do WCTL configure all. Just configure everything. Let it put everything everywhere it needs to be. And then so we got that up. And then we'll cat etc host to see them all in there. Boom, they're there. We'll do WCTL overlay build, because until you do an overlay build for those nodes, they're not going to actually have overlays to share out through TFTP. And then, if that's all done, let's go just try to start one of the nodes real quick. Let's go turn one of them on. Let's just see. Because if all that's good, he should just boot up. And if he doesn't, well, then we'll go troubleshoot him, I guess. But I'm trying to think. Everything in there should be right. And then they're going to get some overlays too for the different nodes that they can get to. So we'll have to figure out how we're going to do it. Ah, he's unconfigured. 3A something something. Whoops. Where's our there? The list. No, node list dash A auto 1. So let's look at 1. That looks 3A 5F 79 7F. Yeah, that's all right. So why is he not? Oh, I did something too. So image build automation. So we didn't build the image, even though we copied the image. We didn't build the image. That's a weird thing. That's like. You would think like, oh, you've copied the image. Like Werewolf should know that it should build the image because it needs the image built again. But it didn't know that it needed to do that. So we're building the image for the first time real quick. Let's just force a shutdown on this. So I went to go grab that file that we were looking for, and it's not there. The file will be the Automation Rocky 9 once that's built. So. Everything else though looks right. Everything else should boot. Let's also check their memory is the right side. Okay, their memory is fine. This guy power down. The automation should finish, and then we'll start him up. Yeah, there he is, creating it for the first time. So here we go. Give him a second here. There we go. Should configure right now because it's just Werewolf doesn't build the image the first time, but it should have known who the node was, but that's probably just because it's not gonna let you pull nothing down. So let's see. The images were already built though, so you should see that he's auto 1. We might need to overlay build. It might be because after that's built, then you need the overlay. I don't know. Aside from that, he's definitely... Yeah, thanks for coming, Agalord. I appreciate it. I'm trying to... What else? No, nothing else should be wrong there. This thing should boot. Configuration node with that hardware address. Definitely did the configure all. He's definitely there. Maybe we need to do, I don't know, maybe DHCP NFS system keys overlay. TFTP is already running. Let it rebuild the overlay, sure. Oh wait, do I have the wrong name in there? Where's that name at? Automation Rocky 9. Image list. Oh, looks right. Oh, hold on. Well, no, that shouldn't be it. But is the networking? It's on the right lab internal for the VLAN because it sees that. I thought it was on the wrong VLAN for a second, but that's not it. He's definitely DHCPing correctly. Definitely got the right. Huh. Why would he not see? Hold on, hold on. I'm not used to these not booting right away. Everything else is the same. We just have a different name for the automation Rocky 9. And that name is correct, so that shouldn't stop that from booting. He's got his system overlays, so that should allow him to start. We didn't change anything else about him, and we did copy him from one of the hammer boxes that was up. Why is he not being seen? He's definitely there. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I don't know why you sometimes need to start Werewolf after the reconfigure, but that's the last thing I can think of without going down into the docs. Because everything else is there. Everything else is configured. Maybe Werewolf just needs to be kicked over. Give it a shot. We're doing it live. found himself. All right. That's cool. I'll turn all these guys on too. All right. So they're all going to be on. So what that actually means too is there's this other component we got to rebuild too, and that's going to come from the jump box. This is the easiest way. Let's grab these guys real quick. Right, so we have these ones that were all there, and now we're gonna have these auto ones. We'll just leave those there. So there's auto 1 through, yep. And then we need to put them in his hosts file, so we're going to add that into Ansible. So now it's going to be part of his Ansible. And then we need to go do root stream. What the fuck is that? It's here. What the hell? We need to. We need all this. So, real quick, we're gonna add. Let's grab. So we want 29 to 42. So what is that, 13? And come down here. We're going to hit P. And it's going to be 4 now. It's going to be 3 now. It's gonna be auto now. Nothing else. Three, two, one, two, two, two. Okay. Let me think if there's anything else. ProLUG cluster key. All that should work. Okay, so that should work. We just need to wait a minute for the template to run through because it'll build. All that stuff's automated. I just was changing a template there, so you guys are wondering there. That should go, and then if these are all built, they should be built here in a second. Boom. Boom. Okay. Meaning. Auto 1. There's auto 1. He's got his dev. We need to change that. We're going to change that to auto, right? We'll change that in the image. And then we'll push it over everywhere. That'll run. So let's cat. Yeah, that's fine. We'll just cat out. Var prolug chroot bin bastion sh. And it's still only... No capacity. Oh, for the security labs, I need to fix that. The automation labs. Auto in host. Then we find his name, Ansible Playhouse All. From there. Hold on. Auto underscore bastion. Auto underscore bastion. Extrude rolls plug. Yep. All that's fine. Cat. That should be an automation core server. That's gonna bug me. Oh, hold on a second. Let's check something real quick. Can we, with the right key, go over there? I mean, that's... What? Oh, this guy doesn't... I'm dumb sometimes. Oh, he's got it. Auto 1. He should have Auto 1 in the... Okay. So... Why is that not... Oh, wait. Oh, in there. It's in there. So, that's my bad. Oh, fuck. I wish I could type. Oh, are the names overlapping? No, that shouldn't do that. I have strict no host key checking on for that, so that doesn't matter. This is... Hold on. But in there, so in here, what other? Oh, jeez. Gosh, what's even going on in my life here? It's terrible. I don't even know what I just did. Let me check something here. I need to just put my key in there so I don't have to do this, but I was doing password testing, so that's why I have... Oh, well, that'll do it. That'll do it every time. Oh, well, you gotta have the 3 lines at the end, so that'll do it every time. Let's go, we still don't see... We see that, but then we don't see the error. Alright, so we gotta go back to the templates, VI, that guy. And we gotta fix our template because we were being dumb. We didn't do the case selection always requires that. And then we'll just wait for that to finish. So should be about 60 seconds. It's every minute that it runs. So yeah, sorry guys, I'm going kind of ham on that, I know. But I'm getting the automation stuff stood up. Whoops, put that back over here for now. All right, get that stuff going. Let's go. We gotta go into auto. Yeah, screw it. Oh, that's my own fault. Over here, we can copy Etsy hosts down into var c prolug ch root Etsy hosts. Yes. 3. Yes, sure. All right, send me an auto 1. Which I'll clean that up. All right, well, that gets us into that part of the lab being updated. And then I'll let the guys know here on the Discord for people that are testing our stuff for us in the ProLUG Lab environment. Auto Labs. There's no configured labs form yet though, so we'll do that. Yeah. So what we're gonna do with that, for people that don't know, we have these labs that we have all kinds of courses, but we're making another course, and it's gonna be the Linux automation course, and it's gonna focus on. Did I put them all together yet? These are kind of the summaries so far that I've put together. Yeah, we're going to build some of these different pieces. Some of these have to change still. We're going to be building these different pieces inside of our inside of these nodes for you guys to use. And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people that want to do the automation course. I just don't know if there's going to be a lot of people that are going to actually do it, which what happens every time we do the course, and then people get super fired up, and that's awesome. But it's like you gotta drive that fire all the way to the end, or it doesn't really matter. Like, I read a thing one time. One of my buddies sent me something that had to do with like Udemy courses, and he said something like 95% of Udemy courses are never even finished. They're bought, but then they only go like the first week or two. And I'm like, or the first couple, units or whatever. And I'm like, that kind of tracks for me, at least what I've seen as well. So Anyways, my point in telling you guys that is we'll have that course and it'll be for anybody that wants it, but I'm not super, I'm not super sure that everybody's gonna go do it. Let's go do something fun real quick then. Let's hold on. Container exec. Go to auto. Whatever. Was it Automation Rocky 9? Is that what it was? Yeah, and then all right. This is fun and all, but let's go find a better one. Or let's go find one that is more to our liking. So, what do we want to make the... Let's see. There's this ASCII art generator that we like. Where's this guy at? This is the worst thing ever. Where's this guy at? He's got a pretty good one. This guy right here. Let's just go to his. Get out of here. And we want auto. Maybe we'll do automation. And let's see what automation looks like in some of these. We don't want that one that's too wide for the browser though. Or whatever terminal people use. So like while blocks would be really cool, maybe we have a different one for this. I don't dislike that one, but let's maybe find a different one. I like Doom. I think that might be kind of cool. All right, let's put a pin in that one. Epic might be okay. There's one called that one's not bad. Let's pick which one we like. All right, we'll pick whichever one we like here. JS bracket letters, modular. I'm a fan of simple, but that's kind of wide for a terminal. Some people don't play with a terminal that wide. Ogre is typically a pretty good one. I think that's pretty clean, and we could do it in all caps as well, which is more with Ogre. See what Ogre looks like in all caps. Oh, they're alphabetical, so I went past it. Rectangles. Ogre. Ogre does not look... I do not like that. I do not like that in all caps. Doom isn't bad. Which one was Doom? Go find Doom. Let's see what Doom looked like caps. Epic Doom. Anybody like Doom? I could see that. But yeah, I think Doom's fine. Let's bake that in. We'll reboot one of our images, make sure it comes up. And then I'll show, well, actually I'll show you how, so that's baked into the image hard now, right? Like that's not gonna change, but I'll show you how I can push it to all of them. So give me 1 second here. This is a way to do it. It's not the only way. That file exists down in varlib, werewolf, whatever that image is. So we're going to take that and we'll push it to all the nodes real quick, and then we'll be able to go check. So do a little bit of quick Ansible stuff. I do got to check a little part of my configuration though before I do that, but let's let it build and sit here for a second, and then we'll go. Yeah, that looks pretty good, the Doom one. So we'll go with Doom. All right. We do still have to build these out, so I've been kind of I've been cheating time right now. These are the labs I have to build. The Unit 16 labs. I was going to build them so people can troubleshoot. I do want people to be able to do the troubleshoot lab because I feel like I was remiss this last course in not giving them that last one. So, yeah, and I grew up, I mean, Doom wasn't even out when I was a kid, right? I had Wolfenstein 3D and then Doom. So, yeah, Doom since the beginning for sure. Let's give this a second here. It's gonna take a second. All right. So here, let's go check our. Oh, good God, I'm in the wrong place, typing the wrong thing. Cat Etsy Ansible hosts. We need to vi Etsy Ansible hosts. We are going to. We'll just go right here. And we'll make a new entry for automation. So it'll be auto. And it'll be auto 1 through 15. Sorry, 1 through 5, right? Because that's all the auto servers. And then servers children are also going to get auto in there. So now when we say Ansible, go hit. So watch here. So when we say Ansible, hit all servers, right? Ansible's going to hit all servers in that list. Hey, how's it going, Rob? I don't know why that popped up over my face. I think probably when I was typing a little bit ago. I'm hanging out. Yeah, thanks for coming by. We're just cleaning up my home lab. And we're doing stuff inside of Werewolf. And we're setting message of the days across different server types, which you're going to see hammer servers, Rocky servers, and auto servers. So there's my Rocky servers, there's my hammer servers. And the auto servers don't have it set yet. They have it set to the other one. So the one that we just updated is in here. It's in cat var var lib werewolf ch roots. In here we should have automation, and then in there we should have rootfs etsy motd, right? And there's our cool little Doom automation. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Ansible to push that to the auto servers. So we're going to do this same Ansible command, but no, it's the same Ansible command except we're going to change it in every way that matters. It's going to go just to the auto servers. It's going to not be shell anymore. Now it's going to be copy, because that's the module. And then now we're going to give it 2 arguments in here. We're going to say source is equal to this machine here, right here. This is our MOTD. We only wanted to do that once. And then destination is equal to Etsy MOTD. So this will go to those 5 machines, the auto machines, and it'll push that to them. And then I'm just going to press up like I'm trying to cast a spell here. And we're going to go against the 5 Rocky nodes and see dev, the 5 hammer nodes and see hammer, and the 5 auto nodes and see auto. That's what we should see. And it's in Doom. So there we go. We have done the thing. So yeah, I appreciate you guys, people that dropped in. This is what we're doing. We're just cleaning up the lab. For people that don't know, you can get into my lab through Discord. You can actually get into our lab environment, and I just set up the nodes here, and then I'm gonna drop this for the guys, and I'm gonna say. So it'll be, where's my little, hopefully this doesn't freeze my screen for a second, but if it does, that's okay. What's our, automation. Anybody remember Doom? We picked that because FI Linux like Doom. So, and I have many fond hours of playing Doom as a kid. So that'll be. So then, for anybody that's wondering, when you go to our external connection, so I've got a connection here that I test it with. When I go into the external connection, which I probably don't have that set up anymore, I go. Got this. Throw it over here real quick. Nope. And copy. Now we go here. We can see the admin course node. Just drop us in a node. We can see where we're going through a Bastion security engineering course node. Exit out of there, kicks us all the way out, and then connecting to the automation course. Automation, right? Doom. I think that looks pretty funny. So then we're still building out the course for the automation. The dev and the hammer boxes, those courses are already completed. But now we're building out the automation one next for people that want to learn. I'm going to focus almost exclusively in there on Ansible because that's what I do professionally, and that's kind of like what I get most of my time in. But everybody else that works in the industry that kind of works with me, we have a couple of guys that are going to help me out with some of the Python stuff. They're going to show what they do, and then one of the other guys is going to do some of the Bash stuff. I can also do Bash and Python, at least to get myself out of a wet paper bag. But for the most part, I don't really do that stuff professionally, so I'm going to leave that for the guys that do that professionally. I'm much more of a systems guy. I build up the systems and the pipes and all that kind of stuff and make sure everything's talking to everything. So that's where we're at. But yeah, I definitely appreciate anybody from the raid. If you don't know what we do around here, we do a lot of Linux, whole lot of Linux. I'm doing a lot of Linux tonight because the wife's out of town, so that gives me time to work on stuff. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We're at almost 3 hours too, so we're rolling right along. So then the next thing that I was gonna work on, or the thing that I keep alluding to doing next, we just built those systems out and connected them through the Bastion, so that's all set up. The next thing to do is, we were talking home lab earlier for people that want to build a home lab out. I have that all up in the Discord now. There's notes there. But this is the next question I really got to work on is Lab 16. How do I deploy the troubleshoot nodes? How do I do this? I'm probably going to do it as an overlay so that it just gets pushed to those nodes. I will have the person, once they log into that node, I guess they're just going to select what they want to do. And then the person can troubleshoot their lab. I think that's the plan. But maybe what I might do is I might make that a thing for us to work on Saturday. Because on Saturday, for people that haven't been around, we've got some events that come up on Saturdays. And the one event that's coming up Saturday morning, there's a Bash study group. That one's been going for a while. That one's pretty good. I'm going to steal stuff from them and run a 10 o'clock at night study group for you guys. But this study group at 10 at night is really just for people that are on the other side of the planet. The goal is to give people access no matter where they're at to doing some of this stuff and meeting other people and working. One of these kind of like one of the little sleeper events coming up is Sending Grounds is going to do interview prep and mock. And he's going to walk you guys through getting into like Mang. And you say, getting into Mang? Well, he's been doing interviews with one of the big, whatever you want to call them, Mang, Fang, whatever the acronym is nowadays. He's been working for one of them for like 8 years now. So he'll tell you all about it. He'll tell you all about his interview process. He actually does mock interviews with you guys. So I think that's one of the most valuable things we have around our Discord. And then also we've got a pen tester coming in August, right at the end of August. And he's going to come and talk to you guys about getting into the industry. He's actually 17 years ago, he was one of my first college students. So there's that. And he's currently a pen tester with his OSCP and GPen. And I see them on LinkedIn all the time looking for more people. Like they're super busy. So they're pretty busy over there. All right, so yeah, well, maybe I'll hold on to that. I look at that and I just keep going. I want to be lazy and not do anything with it. Twisted Seas, how's it going? We're just building out the lab environment, and let's see. Login works with no problems. Good. You guys are always welcome to test that stuff and mess with that stuff. For people that want to use their keys, you can drop your public keys in there. Public keys are fine to show to everybody, it doesn't matter. And I'll drop them in there for you guys, and then you can get access into our lab environments and play with them and stuff like that. In fact, the only thing I ask you to do when you're done with the lab environment is reboot it. I am going to write a process. So I have a script now. Well, it's a playbook, but it runs and it goes and it builds it builds this file right here for usage. Where's he at? He builds this, right? This gets built automatically. And then you'll see that like auto 1 and 2 are being used. So now 3 and 4 and 5 are the only ones that are available, or you'll find no capacity for the servers. So we have access for people to get into everything. But I don't have anything currently that when people are done with a node, it automatically reboots it. And I need to add that. And you might say, why do you need to add that? Well, because when the system goes down and comes back up, it's always clean. And I want the environment to be as clean as possible for people. Obviously, when somebody's using it, it goes away, so then you're not stepping on each other's toes, and that's a nice little feature of this. But I also want you to be able to get into them and have them be clean, not somebody messed it all up and left, right? And reboot only takes 2 minutes, so I'm fine with that amount of downtime against the capacity. I think that's fine, as long as we don't have everybody logging in. My only worry is like when we do the courses, people will be like, "Oh, I'll just log in during when Scott's talking." Well, in that case, I'd either have to expand capacity, which is something I could technically do, but I'd have to manually do it. Or, I wouldn't have to manually do it, I guess, but... Anyways, I'll worry about that later, but for this, I like when people just use them over time, right? Like, hey, here's the lab. Now when we're done, go hop in there, and only a few people hop in, and then people hop in all throughout the week. And in that context, we have plenty of capacity because we've never even come close to using all the capacity when it's just every now and then people logging in and doing whatever they need to do. And then you say, well, what do you need to do? Well, if you're doing those lab courses, there's 16 weeks here. This is all free up in the Discord. This is free online anyways. Anybody that wants this stuff, this is all just free, right? This is our Linux admin course. Linux admin course goes over these topics, makes you learn these things. You might say that looks a little bit like a college syllabus. Well, I've been a college professor for a long time, and this is a syllabus from a college I taught about. Well, it's not the same syllabus. I modified it for my own purpose. It's the template of a syllabus from a college that doesn't exist anymore. So you might say, what is that? Well, you can go look up ITT Tech if you want. They don't exist anymore. But this is a modified version of a similar template that I've turned into our Linux admin and then our Linux security course. And then will be our security automation course as well, which is the one that we had pulled up right here earlier. Where's that? Here. This is the Linux automation for the enterprise. So we're building this one out too. Yeah, I gotta clean all this up. Oh, I gotta clean all this crap up. I think this one's gonna be 16 weeks. And then I'll have to modify the dates for how it's gonna run this next time. So that's what we're doing. That's the plan, guys. Also, finding out very quickly that I kind of drop off my energy level kind of quickly sometimes. I need to update this so it's just the right. It's not MC Hammer anymore. It'll just be ProLUG. And the lab does lock you out if you are trying to get in and do anything that shouldn't. It'll lock you out eventually. And then currently I do have it unlock after a while, but I'm going to change it where it never unlocks because that's how I do it normally for my other stuff too. So what else? Yeah. IP ban off. Yeah. No, it's definitely on right now. People definitely get banned now if they mess around with it too much. But I think we did a good amount of adding things. Those servers, the auto servers, they're only going to be the automation piece. They're going to have 2 servers connected to each of them for them to connect into and configure. And those nodes are going to be, I don't know what I'm going to call them. I'm going to have to call them, I don't know, either worker nodes or something. And then in the different labs and in the different things that we do, we're going to configure them in different ways. So Yeah. That'll be. Gotta think of how we're gonna do that. We'll probably just have one Ansible playbook or one Ansible host file. I'll make you guys make it. I won't give you one, but because there's value in making it. It's not because I it's not like I'm just gonna be like, oh hey, you guys got to make this one every time because it amuses me and I think it's funny to watch people make inventory files. No, one of the most valuable things about doing any type of automation is being able to control your inventory, making your inventory, pulling it automatically, programmatically pulling it. Those type of things are tremendously valuable. In fact, that's probably something we'll do. We'll probably put an API out there for you guys to pull. That would be good for the automation course because then you guys could pull it every week. Yeah. I think that'll be something that we do because then you'll get into the habit of pulling. Because I always pull from Satellite, right? Like if Satellite's the source of truth in my organization, or Sharewell. Sharewell is a tool. CMDB if you've got ServiceNow. ServiceNow is a common CMDB that we pull from. And if I need to get information out of that, I want to be able to do that. And then use that to build my lists of servers and configurations and stuff. Information I know about the servers and how I'm going to make them behave and that kind of stuff. Yeah, last rated. That's really cool. Yeah, if you're building, pull the inventory by tags. That's awesome. Yep. I don't have like a huge capacity. I'll make those worker nodes smaller so they'll be easier for people. But really with Linux, with Ansible, if you can hit two other nodes, I think that's the bare minimum to practice on, because then I guess you could use your own node too to configure. But if you're hitting two other nodes, you can tag them differently. So like one could be a web server, one could be a database server. You can tag them to where one of them is like an NFS client and one of them is like an NFS server, and then you can build that config out. And all that stuff is then you can figure out how to like take different paths through your automation, which is important. I just think there's a lot of things there that you guys can do and build and know, I guess. So that would be a good little thing to do. All right. Guys, it's funny. I had intended, I was like, oh, I'm going to go late until I have to go to sleep and stuff. But, man, I'm sitting here and I'm getting beat. And now with my light on, like with my light so that you guys could see me well, it's like super bright. Turn that off. And then like that, it doesn't look as good. So maybe we'll just call it here. We got a lot of stuff done today. For people that weren't here earlier or want to look at some of that stuff that we talked about earlier, we do have a notes section. So I do drop whatever stuff we're doing as like our meeting notes. I do drop things down here for you guys. So this is what we did earlier. We were just talking about like a home lab build out and like things that I think are useful for you to kind of know about or kind of think about as you're going there. So so here's what we'll do. We did get raided a little while ago, so I do have to raid out for that. But what we'll probably do is find somebody on our list to raid. Let's see if anybody's on. Yeah, we'll go raid Sid Heresy. He's always fun to raid. Our raid message is always something around do all the Linux. So if you have that emote, you can use that. And then for you guys that have been hanging around, I appreciate you guys hanging around. We will be back on. I'll be back on for sure tomorrow night. We'll just keep building stuff out in the lab and getting stuff going. And then what are we going to do? We will, into this weekend. Lots of events in the server this weekend. So I will see you guys there. Take care.